So let's get comfortable and we can begin. So let's become aware of our breathing. With every exhalation, we relax into this present moment. With every exhalation, we let go of any thoughts of the past or the future. And enter more deeply into the only holy moment, right now. And we give thanks for this precious moment, for this opportunity we have to be together in the sacred space of our intention, to be a force for healing and awakening in this world. And we give thanks for this ministry, this unity center that is comprised of our hearts and minds, of our aspirations, of our interconnectedness, of our commitment to the truth of the teachings, of the ancient wisdom. We give thanks for all of the teachers in our life, and for all the teachings of all the traditions that turn our minds away from the delusion of separateness, to remember the truth of the interconnectedness of all expressions of life and our source and the infinite love, the source of all life. And we give thanks for this community, for the brotherhood and sisterhood that we share in our hearts. We give thanks also for all of our loved ones and for the whole celebration of life on this earth, for all of the rivers and mountains, the lakes and forests and oceans, the birds and fishes and all the animals celebrating their lives here, the whole human family on the journey and the adventure of awakening to our true purpose. And we know that the light that is shining always at the heart of the universe is shining always in our heart, is shining in every cell of our being, is bringing every dimension of our life into alignment with our purpose, with the infinite intelligence and the infinite abundance of our true nature, which is one with divine love and purpose. We abide in gratitude and just allow the music now to open an inner doorway to connect more deeply with our true nature. Abiding in silence, breathing, abiding at home in this moment, abiding in the awareness that what I am was never born and will never die, that what I am is eternal consciousness. What I am is the awareness manifesting as love, compassion, joy, and harmony. What a gift this life is on this earth, this adventure to contribute our own unique abilities to discover and learn and grow to the fullness of the divine potential shining always within. May all beings be happy and at peace. May all be free. May we all realize the original brightness of our minds and hearts, and continue together to build a more enlightened society, a world that cares for everyone, a world that reflects the truth of the inner Christ shining always in our hearts as love, as gratitude, as wisdom, and as peace. Through the power, through the presence of the infinite, eternal, divine presence, we give thanks, knowing this is so, and so it is. So thank you, everyone, for joining together in our meditation time. And I'd like to go ahead now and share a few thoughts and ideas with you that we can take into our week. So the basic idea here, the underlying idea, heart teachings on the Dharma path, the whole idea is to reconnect with the understanding that each one of us is on a path, our own unique path. And the word Dharma is an ancient Sanskrit word that means our own true nature. And it also means the awakened nature and the teachings that reveal that nature. So it's a kind of a multi-dimensional word. So when we talk about the Dharma, we talk about our unique life and our unique capacities that we have to unfold in this lifetime. And we also are talking about the teachings and the path that help us to awaken to that and manifest that in the world. So I was born and raised in New England. I was not aware of unity growing up, and it was a kind of a typical sort of Episcopalian and Congregational and Methodist. I was a church organist in high school, so I was involved a lot with churches, but it was interesting. It never really clicked. And there was this kind of a sense of being in a sort of an exclusive club that we had the only one right teachings. But it was also Concord, Massachusetts, which is where Emerson and Thoreau and Alcott and a lot of the really great transcendentalists were living and teaching about 100 years before I was born, back in the 1840s and 50s. And they were the ones that were really kind of bringing in teachings from Asia, especially the Buddhist teachings, Hindu, Taoist, other teachings. And these are part of our ancient heritage as human beings on this earth. This is part of our human heritage, these wisdom teachings. So when I discovered unity, and I was in my early 20s when I discovered unity in Atlanta, Georgia, and I realized in my studies of the unity teachings that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of unity, were very much influenced by Emerson, Thoreau, and Alcott, and also by the teachings coming from Asia, and in a sense, merging and revivifying the Christian teachings with these other ancient wisdom teachings, showing how they support each other. The idea of the divine, or of God as an infinite principle that we can live in harmony with from the Taoist tradition, or the idea of God as infinite mind from the Buddhist tradition, or the idea of God being equally female as male from many of the Hindu traditions. And also the idea, very important idea, I think, from the Buddhist tradition of spirituality as awakening, that it's about awakening out of the delusion of being a fundamentally separate self. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit this morning. This idea that it's possible for us as human beings in this lifetime to awaken. That's what the word Buddha, for example, means. Comes from the root Bud, B-U-D-H, in Sanskrit, means to wake up. And so there's stories of the Buddha that somebody saw him walking and could tell that he was not a normal person in some way. So came up to him and said, are you some kind of an angel? And he said, no. Are you a spirit? No. Are you a demon? No. Are you, what are you? And he said, I'm awake. And I think when we begin to awaken, we're still human beings in a sense, but we're more than just being a human being. We're more than just a physical being. We are aware that we're using, in a sense, or functioning through a physical form, but we're not actually identified exclusively with that form. We realize that we're all functioning through a form, but we can look beyond that and see the being that's manifesting through that. There's one of the most ancient symbols, actually, of the Buddhist teachings. Long before there were these statues and so forth, that came hundreds of years later when Buddhism spread to the West. It was the Greeks actually that said, well, what does this guy look like? And they wanted to make statues of the Buddha. But in the early first few hundred years, one of the main symbols of Buddhism was the footprint. They just would put a footprint as something, as a symbol. And I love that because, if we're at the beach and we're walking along and we see footprints in the sand, we don't go up to the footprint and say, oh, good morning, George. How are you doing? Right. We understand that's just a footprint. That is not George. George, he left that footprint, but he's not the footprint. And so the idea is that when we're looking at each other, like when you're looking at me right now, here I am, this is just a footprint. This physical body, in a sense, it's a manifestation. It's sort of it's left, but the being who makes the footprint, who is that? What is that? See, that is our question. That's the great meditation question that we all have in this lifetime, is to uncover our true nature. And the thing to understand is that all of us, from the time we're born, in a certain sense, our minds are colonized by a whole cultural program that is based on a falsehood, that is based on this wrong idea that what I am is a thing, an object that was born and will die, that I have a certain name, a certain form, this is me. And because of that, we are lost in a certain sense in what the Buddhist tradition calls samsara. Samsara is a word that means suffering that never ends. And the idea is that as long as we're in delusion, we're lost in this misunderstanding that we're a fundamentally separate self, just this body. And so then we're driven by the drive to get things or to keep things away. We need to protect ourselves. We're afraid. We're a separate self. We can be hurt. So we want to get things that will protect us and show that we're powerful or that we're successful and so forth. So we're trying to get things or we're trying to keep things away. We're always in this activity. And then when everyone is doing that, then we're competing with each other for there's not enough to go around, and we're manipulating each other to get what we want and so forth. So that's referred to as samsara, suffering that never ends. But of course, they don't stop there. That's samsara. But the idea is that we can awaken out of that and realize that what we are is the awareness and the infinite consciousness that makes this whole thing possible. And when that happens, then it's like Jesus said, then we're no longer so much concerned about the things of this world, and we're aware that we're about our Father's business, right? We're about the business of waking up, of about being a force for healing. That when we come to this earth and we go through the whole programming that we go through, which is really in many ways just a lot of wounding. We get wounded in many ways. We get hurt and abused in all kinds of ways, both consciously and unconsciously, directly and indirectly. And so we put on armor, we try to protect ourselves. But then fortunately, at a certain point, we begin to awaken, we begin to be drawn to communities of wisdom and compassion, like this Unity Center, where we're encouraged to reflect, to meditate, to pray, to study and to understand that we have a purpose that's greater than just being of this world and trying to put on a mask that will give us approval. We realize that we're not just a masked being, that we are the force behind the mask. And we begin to see that this image that we're told and encouraged to put up is not our true nature. So we begin to take the mask off and we begin to be more authentic in the way we're living and showing our feelings and connecting with our feelings and connecting with our aspiration, the true reason that we're here at a deeper level. Knowing really the beautiful thing is that our life is eternal, but it's not eternal in this body. So we will all get to that point, guaranteed, when we say goodbye. We lay this body down. We're at that moment where we leave. And that moment is a precious moment because that moment is really the culmination of our entire life, how we have lived. How will we feel? Will we be grateful for every experience of learning and sharing and growing? I think it's so instructional and helpful to remember that that is the perspective that we can cultivate, to be mindful that we are an infinite eternal being manifesting through a temporal form, and to spend every day, and really I think give thanks for every day as an opportunity. So we wake up in the morning, and I think it's a very good idea to cultivate a practice of discipline, that the very first thought and feeling that comes as soon as I wake up in the morning is, another day. I'm so grateful for the infinite possibilities of opportunities to learn and to grow and to serve and to awaken. I can hardly wait to see what this day will unfold, and to give thanks for this precious opportunity of a human birth. This is one of the basic teachings, really, not only in the Buddhist tradition, but I think in all spiritual traditions, that a human birth is precious, it's valuable, it's an opportunity to celebrate, to learn, it's an adventure, to grow. And that really, the underlying idea is that we have an outer life and an inner life. So that our outer life is really enriched by enriching our inner life. This is, I think, what Charles and Myrtle Fillmore emphasized over and over again. That, he always said, it's kind of a funny thing, I think, he said that his teaching and his practice was that he himself would go straight to headquarters, right? By quieting the mind, to go straight to headquarters, to go straight to the inner guidance system that we all have. And sometimes I think it's kind of funny because, when he said, I'd like to go, I go straight to headquarters, that could also mean, well, I just asked Myrtle, see what she thinks. The divine feminine, right? So he was lucky to have Myrtle right by his side. But the underlying idea is that each one of us, we don't have to have a mediated relationship with the divine or with the eternal dimension of consciousness, which is our true nature, that we can directly connect with that. And that takes discipline. Discipline is not a bad thing. A lot of us think that, discipline, it doesn't sound like fun, but it's fantastic. I mean, I had to practice the piano. I mean, when I was a kid, I had to mark down on the chart in the kitchen that I put in my 45 minutes every morning, or every afternoon. And, sometimes I didn't want to do it, but I sat at the piano and I put in my 45 minutes because my father played the piano. And so I had this example around me all the time where he would sit and he would just play, and he loved it. And he was really good, actually. And he had his own dance band before I was born, actually. But, but he could really play. And so I was the oldest child, and I took lessons from him in the beginning, and then with this woman who taught me to be a church organist and all that stuff. But the underlying idea for me is that discipline is really important in the sense that it creates the foundation for freedom. Because of that discipline, I can sit at the piano and just play, and it's heavenly great. I mean, it's just express my feelings, and all kinds of new things can emerge when I'm just improvising here, looking out over the mountains. And I think all of us, as we practice the discipline of our mind, to take time every day to bring our mind into this present moment and to listen, to be mindful. I think this is really that kind of discipline. It helps to connect us with our own true nature. So when we do that on a regular basis, out of a sense of interest and a sense of yearning to come home, to get beyond the shallow trials and tribulations of this life, to the deeper truth of our being, that we will be rewarded when we do that. When we actually make an effort, it may seem like we're not making any progress, but every day to return our mind, spend time in silence and to listen. And then we remember that we're on our own unique path, our Dharma path, our path of unfolding our true nature. And when that's happening, we're not only actually bringing peace and harmony into our own life, but we begin to become a radiating center of peace and harmony and joy for other people. And we connect with our own creativity as well, and our intuition, which is the inner guidance system that we all have. The quiet mind is really the key to our inner guidance system. And our mind becomes quiet only through practice. So if we take time every day and just listen, perhaps affirm what I am is a perfect expression of divine love. And then let go of any thoughts and just feel that and rest in that awareness, radiating love, being a force for healing and love to those around us. You know, they've done these tests. It's very interesting about relationships. And I'll kind of close with this idea. I know I'm getting close to the end here. They've done tests in healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. And they found that when people come together, say a husband and wife, for example, but this is really true for all relationships, that if they say nice things to each other or somehow critical things to each other, and it's about 50-50, right? So half the things I'm saying to my partner are loving and supportive and grateful to her, and half the things are like, well, you could have done this a little better, you know, and so forth. If it's 50-50, it's guaranteed to be a divorce. I mean, that'll never work. 70-30, in other words, if 70% of what I'm saying is positive and loving and 30% is a little bit critical, then maybe half the time people stay together. They found that really it's got to be at least 90%. Like, so for every one thing that I say to my partner and my beloved, I say, well, you know, if next time, could you do that differently, or, you know, somehow a little bit critical, that I better make sure that I'm saying nine things of how much I appreciate her and how grateful and how honored I am that she's in my life and so forth. I think when we do that, actually practice loving speech and loving actions, that we create within our own space of love, the space that is our world around us. We create healing and we create liberation, really. Because all of us are wounded. All of us have been told we're not enough and we should have done better, and that we've been raised within a society that really in many ways emphasizes this. And we're surrounded by stressful news, especially now with the election brewing and the conflict in the world. So the more we can be loving and kind and understanding in our speech to other people and in the inner speech that we have when we think about others, to realize that we're all wounded, and to realize that, as the ancient teachings say, hatred never ceases by hatred. Hatred only ceases by love. This is the infinite, eternal truth. So whatever we sow, so shall we reap. So if we want to have a world of freedom and joy and love and kindness, to sow seeds of freedom and joy and love and kindness, and each one of us can do that in our own life, in our own daily life, with the people around us. That's the beautiful thing. Each one of us has the opportunity at every moment to do that. We can do it through an email, through a gesture, through a smile, and through what we're thinking and feeling, and how we're showing up, and take time to listen internally and really work with the feelings that come up, and realize that at a deeper level we can connect with the inner wisdom teachings. They're in books. I mean, these ancient wisdom teachings are in books, and in the example of the lives of Jesus and the Buddha and other great sages and saints. And they're pointing to something that we can actually test out and try out in our own lives. And I think that's a very inspiring thing. I've loved every day, every morning, the first thing I do, I meditate for an hour, and do some yoga, some exercise, some writing in a journal, and reading some inspiring teachings from their ancient wisdom traditions. And I think when we create that as a foundation, try to get up a little early perhaps, and it's a little easier today because we had an extra hour of sleep, and spend an hour or two with this kind of discipline of just connecting with our true nature, and then go forth from that into the world. And we'll find that our feet are on our path, not on somebody else's path, on our own unique path. And when we do that as a community, when everyone is doing that, each one of us are doing our best to connect with our true nature, then as a community, we can create a center, a unity center, that helps bring these ancient wisdom teachings that came through Jesus and the Buddha and Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and we can make them alive now on this earth. There's nothing more important for us than to do that at this time, these critical, difficult times, very challenging times we're in, to come to this earth and bring these wisdom teachings of loving kindness, of freedom, of creativity, of joy, of abundance into our world, and to live them as best we can, and to create and to support a community that is doing that. That is the calling. I think the highest calling is to support communities of sanity and abundance. So I want to thank all of you for your efforts as individuals, and all of you for your efforts together as well, and making this happen and helping to facilitate a community of compassion and kindness. This is the Dharma path that we are all on. There's a lot more I want to say, and maybe next time I can go more in depth into the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and kind of how this really plays out in meditation practices that we can do. But in the meantime, and during this week, remember to be grateful for another day, to learn, to grow, and to walk along the path of awakening and healing together. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, Will. We're just so delighted to have you here today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. We'll now read our affirmative prayer. The essence of spiritual practice is awakening to our original wisdom beyond the confining delusions of our cultural conditioning. It is now that time in our service where we have an opportunity to affirm how abundantly rich our lives are, and to support our Unity by the Shore community. I invite you to place your love offering, your virtual love offering, over your heart, and affirm silently together: divine love as me blesses and increases all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. There are several ways to place your love offering. You can mail a check to Unity by the Shore. The address is on the screen, 3508 Asbury Avenue, Neptune, New Jersey, 07753. You can go to our website. There's a blue button. It says Give Now. If you are signed up on our Breeze platform, you can do it that way. And there was also a link in the email you received for the service. And we thank you so much. We are blessed to have all of you with us. All right, we will now, speaking of blessings, we will now be blessed again by special music by Will Tuttle.
Okay, thank you so much again, Joyce. So I'll just play a short piece of music here as we go forth. Dance for the Arctic Moon. Enjoy.
Thank you again. That was so beautiful.
Thank you.
We
Thank you,
appreciate
everyone.
the discipline that did that piano practicing.